Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Today I want to use the high-speed camera to analyze and understand why these cutoff discs suck. The cutoff disc is a great tool to have in the shop. There's practically nothing it can't cut through. I've been using them a lot on the steel stud framing for my shop improvement projects. One thing that I observed was that I was burning through a lot of discs. And these discs aren't cheap. At $5 to $8, I just wasn't getting the disc life that I was expecting. So I started blaming the disc manufacturers, claiming that they made junk. So I tried many different brands with similar results. But before I put all the blame on the manufacturers, I'd like to take a look at myself to see if I'm doing something wrong. I want to test two cutting techniques. And the first technique is the plunge cut. I would describe this as cutting the entire thickness of the material, starting at one edge, much like you would cut a 2x4 with a skill saw. The second technique is what I'm going to call the gouge. This style, the disc cuts on top of the surface, removing small amounts at a time. This is most likely going to require many passes and a back and forth motion to cut all the way through the work. So here's how I'd like to conduct this test. I want to make a series of slash cuts, maybe 10 or 20 in this 18 gauge, 10-inch wide steel stud. We'll do one side over here, and then we'll try the other technique on the other side of the stud. For this test, I'm going to use the Pferd cutoff discs. Out of all the discs that I've tried, these have given me the best cutting life so far. I think for the first test, I'm going to start with the plunge cut. And the second half, we'll do the gouging technique. So we got 5 cuts on a 6-inch grinding disc on 18 gauge steel plunge cutting. And that disc was $5 to $7. So that's $1 a cut. We're gonna switch out the grinding disc. I wanna perform the test one more time just to make sure that the test was done correctly the first time. Okay, so I got an extra 2 cuts on that second attempt. I'm thinking that this is going to be slower doing this gouging technique, but I think we're going to probably double the number of cuts we can get. Now let's try the gouging technique. Oh, my hands hurt. Oh, I'm not even halfway done yet. Okay, keep going. That took a lot longer, but we made more cuts. Let's count how many we got. 10, 11, 12, 13, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 60. Oh, 61. 6 to 61. This is quite a dramatic difference from plunge cutting to gouging. So I want to fire up the high-speed camera, point it at the cut, and let's truly analyze what's going on. So the high-speed camera is all set up, ready to go. What I want to do is make a nice mark on this grinding disc so we can see it better when this thing is spinning. A nice visual cue of RPM. I think this should show up very well on camera. Ready? Here we go. Let's make a cut. Let's take a look, see what we got. Okay. Whoa. Would you look at that? Those chunks are literally flying off the edge of that cutting wheel. That's quite impressive. No wonder why the disc is degrading, because you can see the vibration of the steel stud and it's just hacking itself apart. What it looks like is just you know, you're just doing normal cutting, but you're literally disintegrating the disc while you're plunging through. And I'm just keeping the disc from literally taking off or riding up on the surface. I'm not pushing very hard at all, but the disc is self-destructing as you make that cut. Who would have thought that there's actually a technique to cutting steel with a grinder? I've been doing it this way my whole life, plunge cutting. Who would have thought that I've been doing it wrong the whole time? There is a trade-off though by watching this. This is way faster to plow through your material. I guess every situation is a little bit different. And being that this is thin material, you have that knife edge that's able to cut that cutting disc. Let's try the gouge cut and see how that looks. The first thing I'm noticing with the gouge technique is that the vibration in the work is very minimal. To me, it looks like the cutoff disc has a little bit of runout in it, and that's what's actually causing the vibration. But without the high-speed camera, this vibration would virtually be undetectable. I'd like to see the real-time clip side by side with the slow motion so I can compare the vibration. That's pretty cool, pretty interesting stuff. I also don't see any debris or dust coming off the disc. This tells me that that disc is staying together and it's gonna last much longer. Well, I hope you guys learned something like I did. Who would have thought that there's actually a lot of technique in using a cutoff disc? I know I just like to plunge this thing into my material and get it cut off and move on. But now seeing that there's actually an advantage and some cost saving to using this disc properly, I'm gonna use these tactics in a little bit different situations. I know plunge cutting is gonna be unavoidable sometimes, but I'm gonna try gouging more often to save these discs. So hopefully these tips helped you guys like they did me, and I'll see you guys on the next Shop Science episode. See you then.